Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for inviting me to take part in this conference. Now, I'm going to reduce my remark because I'm very keen to get involved in the discussion and to hear from the floor. So first, let me tell you a little bit about the European Economic and Social Committee. It's a consultative body. We are based here in Brussels, and it gives representatives of civil society a formal platform to express their views on European issues. And this is why I'm especially excited to be here, because, of course, on your tagline, you have strengthening Europe through grassroots civil initiatives in education. Now, by civil society, we are split into three groups. There's the employers group, there's the employees group, largely represented by trade unions, and then there's what we call the special interest groups. And within this group, there's a wide range of interests, ranging from gender, environmental. We have academics in that group, so we are quite a broad group. So you could imagine when we are discussing issues within Europe, we have to have a common line when we respond. So that results on some topics in quite lively debates. So having said that, implementing diversity from education to the labour market. In the opening session this morning, we had the Flemish minister. He was talking about the poor performance of children of migrant backgrounds, second, third generations, and this is something I think we have seen across Europe. And when we talk about these children, we are talking about children who are born within Europe, who do not have language issues because they are very familiar, very au fait with the language skills of the member states in which they live. They are very au fait with the culture within which they live as well. So we have to ask ourselves, if they go to school here, they speak the language, they're well immersed in the culture, why is it that there is such poor performance of children of migrant heritage? I think the minister, he did touch very briefly on it. He said that these children, because it's not the case of all migrant children across the board, it's specific migrant groups. And it tends to be children from families who haven't gone into further and higher education. So that is a particular issue. And they tend to be children who live in certain geographical areas within member states. And these are the children, when we talk about high dropout rates, that we refer to. But I ask you, are we really surprised? They live in households of either where their parents are either unemployed or what we call the working poor. So they don't always make the link between education and the world of work. There's low expectations, either them themselves or within the school environment. And then, of course, there's the steady message that we always receive about youth unemployment, especially young graduate unemployment. So you think to yourself, why would I, continue in school and continue an education with all this noise that you're getting about it's, probably pointless. As we heard in the earlier presentation by Professor Heikkinen, she talked about the loss of collective formation, which is very understandable. Teachers, as the last speaker said, tend not to live in the areas where they teach their students. And for these children, it could be the case because they're not very pleasant areas to live in, so they commute in. And also, though they're an And I would argue that in some of these schools, there's a large segregation going on within a lot of our schools. Hence, in some areas, we have a very high proportion of children of migrant heritage and very few students who are traditionally from the member states. So, I think there is the need for collaboration. We are always hearing employers' groups stating that they want to attract the best and brightest talents. You always hear them complaining about schools not equipping students with the necessary skills required so that they can be employable, so that they can go into the world of work. So there must be opportunities for collaboration between the world of work and the world of education, as well as policymakers. One, to make students aware of that link and what employers are looking for, and also for students to interact with future employers and to better understand what is required. It's stated in the information that education systems are not sufficiently dynamic and have not adapted to changing reality of labour markets and multicultural societies. And we say at the committee that this is true. But what we would like is, instead of migrant students being marginalized as an issue, it would be good to see how learners can be integrated into mainstream education by focusing exclusively on the poorest and those who are most excluded. We talk about inclusive education as an approach that requires transforming education systems and other learning environments in order to respond to the diversity of learners and become a powerful tool for combating poverty and encouraging social mobility. It must enable both teachers and learners to feel comfortable with diversity and to see it as a challenge and a chance of enrichment within the learning environment rather than a problem. In any event, there is one unavoidable question, and that is defining the basic principle of education for inclusion. Because as well as being a strategy, it is a process that requires us to review not only educational policies, but also those related to employment, the provision of quality public services, especially to disadvantaged areas, and attention to the diversity of those to be educated and where they are. Especially education for inclusion is ultimately intended to eliminate all forms of exclusion, either resulting from negative attitudes or a lack of appreciation of diversity. It can be carried out in a number of contexts, both formal and informal, within families, within communities, ensuring that the burden does not fall entirely on schools. And this is where I think community organizations can work effectively with local authority and with local authorities to be able to encourage inclusive education and to make a difference in this area. Someone yesterday asked the questions in the audience, why is it that we cannot bring policies into effective implementation? And maybe collaboration, especially collaboration with community groups. And I thought the example from Norway with the language school was a very good example in how you can use community groups to bring in those who are exclusive into society. And that's all I want to say, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that we do in terms of migration and the work that we do in terms of integration of migrants. But I specifically wanted to focus on those European citizens who are second and third generation in Europe, who we appear to be letting down. Thank you very much.